Welcome to Going Pro Talent Fund, fiscal year 2026. This is some contact information for Michigan Works Northeast Consortium Business Solution Professionals. There is also information on there for our apprenticeship specialists. This information goes over the past history of 2024 to 2025 Going Pro. Shows the number of awards that have been in the past overall and the average number of award amount, which is just over $36,000. An average cost per person is usually $1,245. Eligible employers. These are the employers that are eligible to apply for Going Pro. Non-governmental private entities like for-profit or nonprofit. You must be compliant with all your state tax obligations. Companies that are not eligible to apply for this would be federally recognized governments like casinos, federal or state or local governments, local or intermediate school districts, county road commissions, county sheriff's departments, and some community mental health agencies are just some of those that are not eligible. No, unions are not eligible to apply as employers, but they are eligible for training providers. If you are unsure, please make sure to get with your business solution professional and we can determine if you are eligible or not. Eligible trainee must be a Michigan resident or non-resident paying taxes in the state of Michigan. Must be 18 years or older. Even if in an apprenticeship at a younger age, they must be at least 18 for Going Pro. Training dollars must be used for permanent full-time employees on the employer's payroll at the time of the application or hired at least 31 days prior to the award date. No seasonal or part-time employees are eligible for Going Pro. Classroom training dollars are one of the ways that you can use Going Pro. You cannot exceed $2,000 per person. If you're doing on-site training with on-the-job training, it's $2,000 per person max as well. If you have a USDOL registered apprenticeship, the max cannot be more than $3,500 per person. Allowable training providers. So Michigan community colleges or training providers licensed by the state of Michigan. Some businesses can, with rationale of the reason why their equipment is needed and trained on. Vendors, if it's only a piece of equipment that is just to them and the vendor is not already providing that training as part of the cost. Community-based organizations, school districts, where unions are possible training providers. Ineligible training, anything that's basic, general, introductory, a webinar or a seminar, a workshop, those are not eligible. In-house training that's non-exclusive in nature for current employees, again, not eligible. Wage reimbursement for any current employees. Consulting fees, any human resource training, unless it's a registered apprenticeship, is ineligible. Anything that is soft skills is considered ineligible. Ineligible training expenses would be those things to keep in mind for your contributions of your in-kind dollars that you're using beyond your training cost. So anything of travel, meals, testing, any kind of fees in that way, any extra tools that you have to buy, keep those in mind, but they cannot be part of your actual training cost. Application periods are very competitive in scoring. They usually exceed the supply of the funding that is given. There are 2 cycles of independent applications each fiscal year. The awards will be announced before the application period actually were to start for training. If you're interested in ELCs, which we will go over further, those applications are separate than any independent application. Reach out to your local Michigan Works for the actual application dates of each cycle. Applications. You can have 1 independent application and 1 employer-led collaborative. Going Pro cannot reimburse any training that has occurred prior to the approval, award, and a contract in place with Michigan Works. Applications are only available through your Michigan Works. An employer that has multiple sites must apply for each site separately. We do share a copy of your application with MEDC, referring partners, or other local partners that would need a copy of the application, but we do not share those wages with those partners. Employer-led collaborative, a partnership of at least 2 companies with sharing the resources of the training that you need. Each training on the training plan must share at least 2 partners. A training plan of each employer cannot compromise anything with leadership. So if you are putting leadership on there, you must have some kind of a hard skill class to go with it. Funding is based on what is available to out there. So it's a separate amount of that saved just for ELCs. Expectations of businesses. So you must be vetted by the Department of Treasury and be in good standing. If you are not, you will have 60 days from notification to resolve that with the Treasury. If you have not resolved that by the time the award has started, once you have that award in place and you are all set with the Treasury, then your award date will actually start. At the end of training, those who receive training, wages must meet that meeting earnings in your area if you have chosen those points. If meeting earnings not met, the grant will be rescinded and any amount that was paid out will have to be paid back. Other expectations of businesses. Paid wages are equal to or greater than your prevailing wage in your county. These are not meant for low wage occupations. You must utilize the Pure Michigan Talent Connect and work with your Michigan Works on recruiting with your job openings. Try to retain all employees upon completion of training. An impact story is required when you are awarded to kind of talk about the success of what you've done with those dollars. Complete training that is on the training plan. So be realistic of what training you can actually completed in that time frame. After each training, submit all required documentation for reimbursement. The reimbursement will be made once all training has been completed and the original pledge of intent for your application has been met. Employer contribution to the training. Make sure you confirm your contribution to at the completion. Be realistic of what you have spent during that time. So going into the different training types, classroom training is one of those that is eligible. We need a detailed syllabus for each training that you are putting on your training plan. That includes the hours. This must be uploaded at the time of applications for review. Each classroom must have some kind of a recognizable credential. If it's receiving college credit, that is allowed. If you're doing something with a training provider, you can do it on site, you can do it at the training provider's area, or you can do live instructor-led online. With online training, you kind of have to figure out those that are not obtained locally. Again, make sure that's live instructor-led, no self-pace. Recordings are allowed. Training results still must have a credential. Some clarification on training. If it's safety training, it cannot be the normal cost of doing business, like lockout, tagout, serve safe, first aid, CPR. These are safety trainings that would be more in depth, like an OSHA 30. No recertifications can be covered, such as an annual crane training. If you are looking at lean training, it must be more in depth, like a black belt or a green belt. We do need to have a syllabus to make sure that it fits that. Going Pro does not support any kind of general overview. If you are looking at lean, we need to make sure that that's kind of meeting your company's strategy and does have hands-on components. We do not cover any of those consulting fees that you may have. If you're looking at any new hire trainees on your award, individuals can be hired 30 days prior to or on after the effective award date. New hires must be hired and trained and completed and retained for 90 days, get the full reimbursement. If individuals hired have been temporary workers for your company, the individual must be learning a new job to be considered a new hire. Here's kind of an example of the reimbursement rates. So if they have completed the 120 hours that you have put on your training plan, or if it's 200 hours, they must complete that and then be retained for the 30, 60, or 90 days to get the percentage that is listed. So if they've been there 30 days beyond that, it's a 50%. If they're 60 days, it's 75%. And if they're there for the full 90 days after training, it's 100% reimbursement. There are some targeted populations that we can look at to give you additional money for new hires. So if they're like a veteran, you get an extra $500. We do have to collect documentation to prove this. As an example, with veterans, we would need a copy of their DD 214. If you're looking at somebody like an older worker that's 55 or older, we need some kind of documentation to prove that as well. Apprenticeship training. So if you're looking at that, you do have to have a USDOL registered apprenticeship, and you may receive up to $3,500 per trainee. It can be a combination of the RTI and the on-the-job training. It is possible to be 100% OJT. Here's a few exceptions: if you've already, been paid by another source, if it's already been done prior to the effect of the award date, or maybe you front-loaded and it was all done right off that first year. Apprenticeships can be awarded with Going Pro for any year. So if you have a 4-year apprenticeship, you can reapply every year and still be, have a chance to be awarded for that. If you put an apprentice on your application, they cannot be replaced with a non-apprentice on the award. That funding must stay to that apprentice. We do need a copy of the RAPIDS printout that is required for us for proof to make sure they are actually a USDOL registered apprentice. Here is an example of what the scoring criteria would look like for 2026. And we're going to go a little more in depth to this. It is going to be 50-point basis for this year. So for a high priority sector, you have an option up to 9 points if you are in one of these industries. If you're not sure, please reach out to your business solution professional to determine if you are in that industry. If you are going to be doing any training with electric vehicles, there is an option to get 1 point here. That has to be the training that is on your application that directly helps with EV vehicles. If you have training on your application, you can get 1 point if it helps with affordable housing. You can also get 1 point if you have something on there to help with increasing household access to high-speed internet. If you have college credit on there, you do get an option to get up to 6 points for one course on there. If you have other non-college credit, there is an option to get 3 points, or if you are working with a third party, and they could still get 3 points. But if you are doing nothing that fits into that, then there's no points for this area. If you have an industrial recognized certificate or license, you can earn up to 5 points if you have one training on your application, but this must be met during that training plan timeframe. Here's some examples of those listed here. So something like a CDL, if somebody's doing a CENA, those are some things that are possible to be able to achieve in that time frame. Business ownership. So if you are in this section, you can earn up to 4 points. There's a couple different ways to do it. If you're a geographically disadvantaged business enterprise, it is possible to get those. Or if you are 51% owned or controlled as a veteran or a woman-owned business, those are some of those that would fit here. Exception is only if you have 2 individuals, and it might be less, and it could be 50%. A little bit more on that registered apprenticeship. These are how you kind of earn those additional points on that. You can earn 2 points if you have one apprentice on there, and that's 25% of your training plan. If you have more than that, you're up to 5 points, up to that 50%. And if you have 50% or greater of trainees on your training plan, then you can earn the full 7 points. Regional median wage. There's up to 9 points in this section. You must meet that or equal that at the end at closeout. This is something that you must meet if you choose these points. If you do not meet those meeting earnings at closeout, then you will have to rescind your entire award. So make sure that you're going to meet these meeting wages for those that are in training during this application cycle. So there's some points for your size of funding request. So if you're up to $60,000, you're asking, you can get the full amount of 4 points. The more you request, the less points that you get. So if you're over $220,001, you get no points at this. So it's very important to maintain your application scoring criteria at closeout. So keep things in mind, like if you put college credit on there, if you have third-party training you're getting points for, if you have a registered apprenticeship, a license that you're putting on there, or you're choosing net meeting earnings, you must maintain those at closeout. Those are points that may make the difference that you were not awarded in the beginning. There are some modification allowances that are allowed. So make sure that you reach out to your Michigan Works prior to making that change and make sure that we can get it modified. And it is something that we can modify. So there are some that we cannot. So if you have a college credit on there and now you're not going to have any college credit, we may not be able to do that. So we need to reach out and make sure that we can do those kind of modifications. If you're not going to meet that meeting earnings, that's something that we're not going to be able to modify if you have chosen those points. Employer contributions. So there's a section in there in which you can gather all the information of everything beyond what your training cost is. So wages of your employees, your travel costs, cost of any equipment, any overhead administration costs, loss of productivity. If you're kind of wondering what all fits in here, get with your business solution professional and they can kind of explain more of this. But this is everything beyond what your actual training cost is. Information on the Going Pro Talent Fund can be found on the WeBloom system. If you go to michigan.gov/talent fund, there will be user guides and tutorials and all sorts of information they will load there as well. You can go in and prepare ahead of time for an application and getting your credentials all set up, just not being able to ask for your actual application. If you ever have any questions about Going Pro, please make sure to contact your business professional and they can explain Going Pro more. And this is the contact information for Michigan Works Northeast Consortium's Business Solution Professionals. Thank you for attending.